Ain't seen you for ages.
No. Ooh.
Brad, hi, all right?
Yeah, good.
We're live, apparently.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Spurs Diehards Tottenham Till I Die. Tonight we've got a good panel. We've got a few things to discuss. I know there's not a great deal of news out there, but I'm sure we'll give you some interesting content. So without further ado, I'll introduce us to our guest. Haz, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, man. You? Thanks for the invite again.
Fine, thank you. No, you're more than welcome to come on our shows. You know that. Brad, and how are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. I literally got your message about 20 minutes ago.
Thanks for coming on, mate. Yeah, okay. Mod Mark, you're next before we go to admin. How are you?
Yeah, all is good, mate. Thank you for the invite again.
You're more than welcome on our show.
It's a regular thing now. I'm a regular on it.
And Ian, my fellow co-host here, who hosts shows himself. Ian, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. Yep.
Okay. Right, I think we'll start with the pre-season tour. The players have landed in Japan for the game this Saturday, which is at 11 a.m. in the morning for those of you who've got Spurs play. I'm fortunate enough to have it. I know some people refuse to buy it for various reasons. We're going to be playing the J-League team Vissel Kobe in Tokyo at the Japanese National Stadium. I don't know if you guys see the squad that went out, but I think I'll start with you, Haz. Did you see the squad? Was you happy to see certain members among that squad?
Well, I did look at more like the important things. Really, I didn't look at the whole list, but obviously Spence.
I'm more alluding to the younger players that went.
All right, all right. I was going to talk about the fact that Spence actually went because obviously he's
that's
one.
Fine. We'll talk about that. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, who I thought was going to go. So maybe there's a half a chance he might stay now. Obviously, Brian Hill and Reguilon haven't travelled because they're going to find a move away. So my small hope of Reguilon staying is gone now. So in that sense, with the younger players though, on that I think it's probably based on what they did in the previous friendlies. So I think they're always going to go. So maybe this is their chance just to show again if they can actually do it on the first team stage for the next season, I guess. Yeah.
Brad, your take on the squad that went?
It didn't surprise me, to be honest. I think the kids that went probably deserved to go. I saw them for the first time on Saturday, and without getting over the top, they do look promising. To be honest, they do look promising. It's obviously Gray and Berkvile were going to go, but the others, especially in Mikey Moore, I think Mikey Moore, I was really surprised how well built he is for a 16-year-old. When I saw him on Saturday, it's like, whoa! Remind me a little bit,
isn't he? He's 5'9". He's 5'9", but he's squat. Yeah. He's got a Maradona sort of squat.
Sort of like what sort of like what Rooney was when you know, I'm only comparing size, I'm not comparing ability, but like Rooney was when he was 17. So there's a promise in there, but we got to be really careful with him. We can't go over the top and say he's the best thing since sliced bread, blah blah blah. We got to be careful. When he was 17. So and I'm just wondering whether it's quite interesting that Reguilon and Hill been left at home to find clubs. No problem with that. Brian Hill is not for the Premiership. He's a decent player, but not for the Premiership. But interesting, they left them at home, but they've taken Emerson Royale and Jed Spence.
There's news on him. I'll come to him.
Yeah,
later.
which obviously we'll talk about later. So that was quite interesting. But there was no real surprises in the squad, really. Obviously, the players that have been involved in the Euros are going to join up later on. But nothing really in the squad that surprised me, to be honest.
Mark, your take on the youngsters that went with the squad?
It's basically what we got at the moment, you know, because there's still, how many still away on holiday, or, you know, maybe not holiday, but having their rest. There's at least 3, 4. So, you know, and they always take a load of youngsters on the pre-seasons anyway, you know, because these pre-season, well, until it comes to the last 1 or 2, you know, no one gets 90 minutes today. It's always like 22 players, basically a team in the first half, team in the second half. It's the way it always is. So no surprises whatsoever.
Right, I'll move to my co-host Ian. Ian, your take on the pre-season tour and the youngsters that went, the ones that you particularly like. Which ones you like?
No surprises at all for me. I looked through the squad just to check that there was none of the kids out. I mean, at the moment, remember, we're still several of the first team players out and recovering and what have you. I think if people are wondering about the team that might start the first game, you look at the 2 Bayern Munich games, I think will be a pretty big indication. And you hope by then there'll be a couple of players, at least a couple of players through the door. In terms of the squad, the one thing I think that was interesting is that Royale apparently has gone. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the stories tonight are that suddenly Tottenham and Milan are not that far apart.
Yeah.
Often happens with a negotiation, particularly if you bring a third party into it in terms of someone else might be interested. Suddenly the parties get closer and closer together. I'm a little bit surprised he's gone, and presumably if the fee's agreed, I mean, planes are 10 a penny now, that he'll be on a plane. He'll be on a plane from Tokyo to Milan or wherever. But yeah, I mean, I'm delighted. I'm delighted to see these kids get another game. There's always the worry we're going to throw in too many kids and have problems. But you know, I'm expecting a fair number of them to have a role to play. You know, with the League Cup, with the Europa League, and what have you. So it's good that they get some proper first team experience, and travelling on a plane on an overseas tour can only be good for them. I mean, I just wonder with safeguarding and what have you, does Mikey Moore have to take a parent, or do they have a? I mean, I'm not. It wasn't actually meant to be funny. I mean, it's great you got a 16-year-old, but you know, does he have to have a chaperone, or presumably there are you know, people that have got the relevant certificate.
Well, it's not touring with a band, is he?
Well,
So it's not going to be like 6 hours of rock and roll. It's going to be pretty controlled. All the players, sort of, you know, you hope.
Yeah.
My take is, when we were 16, you didn't want your parents around, did you? You want to be with a lad. You didn't want them holding your hands and your mates thinking you're still holding on to the apron strings, did you? So he's usually
there were no laws about who I snogged at the local youth cup disco in those days. Now there are, you know.
Right, Heads, back to you, mate. Right, as you brought up Jed Spence, do you think Jed Spence will be staying at the club? Do you think the games he's played in are just smoke and mirrors? Do you think that he's just been put in the shop window, and that's why Emerson was taken away as well? I'm just adding that on now. But do you want to keep Jed Spence, and your overall opinion of him?
I'm quite mixed with Jed Spence, because if you speak to managers, or obviously not speak to the managers, but if you read the reports from other managers, like I think it was Daniel Farke, who was on loan to last season or something, they weren't, his attitude or whatever they alluded to wasn't exactly very good. But then on paper, he, like, you'd think he's fast, he's tall, he's strong, he'd be like a potential to actually be a good fullback. But I think it's all to do with him, really. And I do think partly, if you look at the Emerson situation just now, that he's actually still on the tour, but he's still in the shop window. I think that it's kind of 50-50. I think with the club as well, because otherwise, if they was definitely going, I think they wouldn't have taken him on the tour. But if they're kind of in the category where they get a decent offer, if they was definitely going.
That was me. Sorry, carry on.
If they get a decent offer, then they'll sell him, or maybe he's reassessing him again as well at the same time. Like, he could be in that sort of boat in between, I think.
Brad, are you hoping that Jed Spence saves us millions in the transfer market?
Is he also homegrown, Adrian, as well?
Well, we've already paid 15, 20 million for him, or whatever it was. Listen, I think I agree with Haz as far as Jed Spence is concerned. He fits the Postecoglou mold brilliantly. He's strong, he's fast, he's skillful. He can play fullback, he can come inside. But it's just it's just him. What has gone on in the past, and you'd imagine that Postecoglou wouldn't keep a player if he didn't. He let him go last season, didn't he? So you do wonder. I also wonder, as far as him and Emerson's concerned, is that Milan wouldn't want to pay what we wanted, and I think the same with Genoa for Spence. So it's almost like they've gone, all right, we'll sod you then. They'll come on tour with us. Be interesting to see where Milan are touring or where Genoa are touring, because if they're touring in roughly the same area, then potential transfers, it's not a problem, is it? They can meet up with their new teammates. But as far as Jeff Spence is concerned, if he can be the player that we've seen him be and he can knuckle down, then great. But, he's been to a few clubs now and they've all had problems. You do wonder. We had the same with Ndombele. Ndombele made, more comebacks than Lazarus. Oh, yeah, he's back to being his best now. And then, then he goes to another club and they didn't want him. So that's the one thing in the back of my mind with Jeff Spence. But certainly, as a player, he's got all the attributes that Postecoglou needs.
Sorry, Haz, you were going to say something before I went to Brad.
Is he homegrown, Adrian? Or
Yes.
Yeah, I believe he is.
Another reason why they might keep him, because
True.
Yeah, he's one of, obviously he's not academy trained homegrown. For those that are listening, we have to have 4 academy trained homegrown out of the 8 homegrown for Europe, and we're allowed 17 foreign players. Well, I estimate we've got 5 academy homegrown, because there were questions about whether Skip would be sold or stay or whatever. But you've got Whiteman and Austin. You've got Skip, right? You've got Sarr. He did 3 years in France, but he was with our academies, and you've got Noel John was 21, I know, in March. Now, there may be someone's talking about Santiago and another player might be old enough. But the thing with the 4 homegrown, the academy homegrown is, it's all right having 4 academy homegrown if Ange wants those particular 4 to take up 4 valuable places in the squad. If he don't want one or more of them, if he don't fancy one or more of them, they left Santiago at home. And I like the player. Without going off on too much of a tangent, Mark, your take on Jed Spence? Do you like him? Would you like him to be kept?
Yeah, well, all these where he went on loan and all that, they all sort of moaned about him, really, for sort of simple terms. But I think his confidence was knocked when we signed him, and Conte said, "Oh, he's not my signing, and I didn't want him." You know what I mean? He sort of said, "No, that was club signing. I didn't want him." And then he was sent out, and it does come down to him. But the first 2 friendlies, he's looked very good. I think the ball is in his court. And going back to Sarr, now there was a bit of a grey area with Sarr. Is that right?
Well, yeah, because
we signed him at 18. He spent or 17, whatever age he was. He spent a year in the French thing,
3.
but we signed him.
3. He played for a team. Was it Metz or something?
Yeah. And it's whether that counts in our academy, because
Ian would probably be more up to speed on this than me, but just logically, even if it isn't his particular field. But to me, if you're registered with our club, you're our player. So if we loan you to Metz, whoever it is, and he spends 3 years out there, he's not part of their academy, is he? He still belongs to us. So
Well,
he's still
yeah. No, but
and he's still
it was just a
academy
little
trained.
grey area.
Yeah, I don't know if UEFA would come back with some like tricky rule and say no.
Yeah,
but
it's
to me,
it's only the Europa League that's the problem. I think it's okay for the Premiership. It's just the Europa League, isn't it? I think that's the.
well,
the
this
issue.
is where I think he qualifies. I think he qualifies because he's 3 years for our academy. I don't think there's any rule that says you've got to be academy trained with your academy. You've got to be academy trained.
Yeah, that was the grey area.
So, Ian, your take on Jed Spence and the academy trained?
Yeah, well, let's talk about Jed Spence. I mean, I'm a fan. I also think, as others have said, I think he's an absolutely perfect inverted fullback under Postecoglou. But you can't teach attitude. That really's got to come from him. Yeah. I actually wrote a piece, and I didn't publish it, and I should have done, last summer about how I thought Postecoglou would do with the current squad. And I mean, I didn't think Højbjerg would survive at Tottenham, and that's proved to be the case. I also don't think Kulusevski will survive at Tottenham, and we'll see if that's the case. But the one player I thought was absolutely perfect for his inverted right back slot was Spence, and actually better than Porro at playing that role. And the other thing then, and this would have been before we signed Brennan Johnson, I wrote this, was that Porro I thought would be an absolutely ideal right-sided forward. Of course he can do some of his defensive stuff, but he's got pace, he's got a cross, he's got a finish. And I think I really like the look of that, and I'd love to see them playing together in those positions. But we'll see. Ultimately, what comes from Spence has to come from within. There's only as a manager in any walk of life, there's only so much you can do, and if your member of staff doesn't want to do it themselves, well, it's the proverbial. Where did that come from? The proverbial horse to water. I'm glad Spencer's gone on the tour.
That was a loud motorbike coming past my house.
Oh, right, okay.
There's a youngster lives around there that's got some sort of motocross thing.
I mean, I would absolutely love it if whether his agent or his dad or his manager has sat him down and said, look, you're going to waste your career. You know, you're earning I don't know what he would be earning at Tottenham, 30 grand a year, maybe. That
more than us. More than us.
No one's going to pay you that kind of money. You'll just end up on the scrap heap, wasting your talent. This is the best stuff. You know, this is the best, absolutely the best you're going to get in your career. So go away, think about it. And he's come back. I saw him at Hearts. He was excellent against Hearts. Up and down that wing, really working hard. And again, I mean, against QPR, he lost the ball, and there's twice I've seen him even playing for Forest where he sort of sauntered back, whereas against QPR, he lost the ball and he came back and he made a really, really good tackle. And that's about attitude, and I know Ange will love that. So, I mean, let's hope. Let's absolutely hope. But if he's still here in the 1st of September, I expect him to be playing some games.
Well, my take on
say one thing. I don't think he's there in the shop window. I don't think Ange. If Ange wanted rid of him, he'd have left him behind and said, "Find another club." I don't think Ange has taken him to Japan to make him look good to find another club.
No, not when we've left other players behind. Not when we've left other players behind. Now, my take on Jed Spence, I would like to keep him. I haven't seen enough of him. I see him before we even got him, and we went from Middlesbrough to Forest, and we had him, and he went to Leeds to Genoa, and that. He's got the talent, like you've all alluded to his attitude, rightly so. Right, he's definitely got the talent, and I think a word's been spoken to him. He was man of the match against Hearts, and I couldn't agree more. And against QPR, I just thought Alfie Devine pipped him for that. I thought Alfie Devine had a more solid, neat game, and it pipped him for it. Would I like him to stay? If his attitude right, too true, I would. Too true, I would.
I think from the impression I got from the supporters was the supporters that want him as well. I think they were quite encouraging when he was playing on Saturday, the game I saw. I think the supporters want him to do well.
Yeah, well, he's been given a chance to redeem himself. If he screws it up, or if he upsets Ange and he goes, then we'll know. If he goes, we know it's because it's not to do with his talent, right? It's to do with his attitude. Right, let's move on to. I want to talk about Mikey Moore. I mean, I cannot stop eulogising about this player, but I'll let you lot go. I mean, his birthday's August the 11th. He'll be the right old age of 17, I think, in August the 11th. And that is when we're offering him a new contract, and he seems happy to stay. How much have you seen of this young fella? And what do you think of him?
I've just been seeing really highlights, to be honest. I haven't actually had time to sit down and watch all the friendlies. I was out again on the weekend, so I missed it. So, but for me, with these young players, and this stands with Bergval as well, and with other ones, to me, it's just because obviously a lot of you alluded to him being like Rooney because of his age, I guess, as well, and how he broke for Everton like 16, 17. But I think that's a big ask to put that much pressure on a kid. And also, for me, it's like you just need to wait and see how it goes, really, rather than a lot of people obviously come on and say, oh, he's the next this, or he's so good we should play him in the first team straight away. I'd rather we do like we did with Kane in the sense, not loan him out if he's really this good, play him in the Europa League games from the start, or even at least the half at least, and just see how it goes in those games first and in the cups. And if he's so good, he can work his way into the first team in the league, rather than saying this guy's the answer straight away. So that's for me. That's how I would do it. But
in the under 17s, I think he got 7 goals in 15 games. In the under 18s, he upped the ante. He got 10 in 12. Right when he got promoted and trained with the under 21 squad and that, I think still with England and all that, he had either 14 goals in 17 games or something like 8 assists. His stats, if you go, I'm not. Don't quote me on these stats, but they're roughly in the field, right? I'm sure Ian or someone else can get them up if they want to have a look. His stats are absolutely mental. They're mental. Brad, your take on young Mikey Moore?
Well, I mean, he also was a shining star in the under 18s England, wasn't he? Which I think got to the semi-finals from memory.
4 goals in 3 games, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the guy's obviously got talent. Let's not forget he got given a run out against Manchester City last season in the Premier League. All I will say is that the under 21s and playing friendlies is a big step up to the Premiership. So I think we've got to be a little bit careful with him. And again, it's down to the player. You know, if he's got his head screwed on, he's going to work hard, and he's not going to be fazed by not getting a game every now and then. Whereas some people his age, if suddenly it's like, oh well, it's the best things at sliced bread, they'll think, oh great, I should be playing every game. When they don't, then they go off the rails. So yeah, I just think we've got to be a little bit careful with him. Just nurture him through this sort of moment. The tour will be good for him, really, because he's talking about having a chaperone. Will be away from his family. He'll be in that sort of team sort of spirit type thing. Let's see how many minutes he gets over, on the tour, and then whether he comes back and whether we loan him. I don't think we'll loan him out. I still think his age might come into that.
No, he's too young to be loaned out.
Yeah. So, but I've certainly, and let's be honest, he was around the first team last season, so the club obviously think a lot of him. So yeah, it'd be very interesting. I mean, if you look at Wayne Rooney and recently Jude Bellingham, those sort of players, they come around once in a blue moon. They're very rare. It's all very well. Oh, we got the next Wayne Rooney or the next this or the next that. It's very rare that these players suddenly come along at 17, 18 and hit the ground running. And I mean, let's look at Bellingham's 18 playing a major role in the World Cup. You look at Rooney at 17-year-old playing in the European Championship. So it's a massive, massive step up from that for being really, really good in a friendly against Queen's Park Rangers. So
and Lamar for Spain, he's only 16.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a big step up from that. But hey, maybe he is that good. I don't know. I haven't seen that enough of him like Has. I've only seen the clips. I mean, you could probably put a clip on YouTube and I'd be a world star, So they do tend to put the best things out. But the lad's got talent. He looks, as I said before, he's well built for a 16-year-old. So the physicalities of modern football in the Premiership, I think he'll be able to put up with that. But yes, it's all down to mental attitude, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And we'll just have to see. But I think just play it safe. Just don't rush the guy. We signed that 16-year-old from Croatia, didn't we? And everyone's going, "Oh wow, we got the next
Boskovic."
Yeah, one player. Wow, it's great. And if it's just look good in 5 years' time, it's like it's crazy.
I think also with these youngsters, you look at Rooney. At his situation, he kind of got a break in the sense because I think did he come as a sub or something? And
he scored that goal against Arsenal, didn't he?
As a sub, I think it was a sub.
Yeah,
and then he scored that goal. Everyone went, "Oh my god, Wayne Rooney!" But in a sense, if it's going to happen for him as well, he needs like a break. Like I said, with Kane, he came through the fact that he was in winning the Europa League, and eventually we played him in the league. Coach eventually gave in to the fans and played him. So there's like 2 or 3 routes he could go to for it to happen, but it just, like I said, I think it just needs like a break. That's all it is.
Yeah. Glenn Hoddle scored in his debut as a 17-year-old.
Yeah, away to Stoke, 2-1 win. Yeah. Mark, have you seen much of Mikey Moore? I know you haven't got.
Yeah, I've seen the highlights, and I agree with Haz and what Brad said. Like, you just got to keep him grounded, because I remember, if I was out on the tour and I was 16, I'd have been in a dentist chair.
Drinking underage, drinking underage.
I mean, we all know what we were like at 16. Now, like it would have been like, see how many bars you can get served in.
Right, I'll put Ian on the spot now for a bit of fun. Ian, your take on Mikey Moore, and what about that miss when Kulu put him through? It was point blank, mate. What happened?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought, sell him. I mean, he obviously can't play, can't finish. Typical Spurs player. Just dump him, Give him he can sign for anybody as a 17-year-old. Tell him we're not giving him a professional contract. And, I think the kid's got it up. I know a lot of people have spoken about him. I've seen some snippets, particularly some that you've sent round. But actually watching him in the flesh on last Wednesday was a bit of an eye-opener when you think there's so much about him if you watch him. His awareness, his positioning, ability to bring people into the game, and his ball control. His ability, that's what really got me. Everything that he does to me comes down to the fact that he can hold the football and even not be looking at it, looking around him, and the ball's never more than a few inches from him. You're right about that low centre of gravity. You're right about that sort of little sort of Messi type, Maradona type low centre. I mean, he's not in there. Let's not do another Marcus Edwards on the boy. But I mean, I'm a great believer if you're good enough, you're old enough. Pele was playing in the World Cup at 17. Wayne Rooney, I thought that Wayne Rooney was 16 when he scored that wonder goal against Arsenal at Goodison. I might be wrong. Bellingham, you've spoken about. Trevor Francis was playing Premier League or top level football at 16. There's plenty of players. We played Neil McNabb as a 16-year-old. I think against Chelsea, he made his debut, and Ron Harris had if you remember him, had a good whack at him as a 16-year-old.
And also, sorry to interrupt you, and also playing with better players and professional players, experienced players. They'll do the world of good. It's no use in playing for the under-18s and being, best player on the pitch every match. I think I was never a decent. I was never a decent footballer. I used to play for the C team, the pub team, basically. But a couple of games, we had some lads that I knew that came and played with us from the first team that was basically given over injuries, given a right. I had my best games when they were there because you just had these better players. It just raises your game, and I think that'll do in the world of good. We want him to have that rather than him being, player of the year in every single match for the under-18s or whatever it might be, under-21s even.
You need him to be like sort of taught, watch people, learn off people. You don't need to just because a lot of youngsters, they get thrown in and they have a bad game and it ruins them. You don't, you know what I mean? As long as he's got the sensible head on him.
I get the impression, Mark, he's a bit stronger than that. I just get the impression that he's stronger than that. I also think that he's going to this. I mean, alone is obviously would be outrageous for a 16-year-old, but I genuinely think he's going to be around the first team for as long as he's a Tottenham player. I can see him being on the bench in the first team games. I can see him coming on for little cameos. Maybe we need something to happen. I say we started my show on Sunday. I'm worried about that left hand side. I'm worried that we've got Son, who's the first choice, who I wait to be convinced that the best days aren't behind him. Timo Werner, the proverbial can't hit a barn door from 2 feet. Although I love what he does. I love his passing. I love his movement. I love his awareness, his reading of the game. Everything about him is superb, but he can't finish. And if you can't score goals, you can't win football matches. Mana Solomon, again, good player, but no better than backup. And then we've got Mikey Moore, who's 16. So we've got 4 players that might be vying. And we're talking about signing Edzzy as well. Now, whether he'll play left forward or an inside forward, I'm not sure. And I think Postecoglou loves to have options, players that can play in different positions that he can shuffle around. But you're looking for that extra quality. It's all very well having quantity, but we're looking for that extra quality. And I'm hoping this boy has got something. But at 16, you can't expect him to be, carrying the team. He's going to have to be nurtured gently into the first team. But I can see in a year and a half, he'll be a first team regular. Totally.
Time will tell.
I can see him getting halves next year. We've got eight bites of the cherry in Europa League. I could see him getting game time now. Ange, I trust Ange to handle him well. My take on him, I don't know. For those of you in the chat or those you watching on playback later, Mikey Moore can play anywhere in midfield, anywhere on the front three, mostly for England and for Wayne Burnett in the under-21s. He plays on the left-hand side, though he's right-footed. And I don't know if that's because we've got a great selection of players on the right, or whether it just seems to be fashionable now to play inverted wingers, But he's centre. I mean, when you watch him move with the ball, he's either just strolling, he's always looking, and then he'll give a sudden burst of pace, then he'll slow, and he'll put that pass through. He can switch from foot to foot. The goal he got against Hearts was fantastic. And he swiveled from foot to foot, took 3 players out of the game with one swivel of his hips and moved. I don't know what he's like heading, might be a weakness. but I like the player. Okay, as we'll come back to you, I want to talk about 2 more players that have started to create an impression. Give us opinion on both Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall.
Bear in mind, Adrian, I haven't watched any of the friendlies, so I have to very sort of highlights.
Highlights are good.
I can tell you something about Archie Gray, because someone at my work is actually a Leeds fan. He's been a Leeds fan for years. So I saw him today after 3 or 4 weeks, coincidentally, because we both went on holiday around the same time and came back. And he told me he's devastated that they sold Gray. As for my own personal experience of Gray, I've only really seen him in the playoffs and the playoff final. And I have to say, I wasn't that impressed, if I'm being completely honest. I thought he was all right. But, of course, at the same time, he's also 18. So, I don't know. He's probably going to get better because he's only 18 years old. So, as for Bergvall, apart from the highlights, I haven't seen anything else. But he's one out of all of them, even more than Mikey Moore, I think, is more likely to get game time, in my opinion. Because in midfield, I think it's up for grabs for us because I'm not convinced by Basuma in there. Maddison was hit and miss last season. There isn't a bigger chance for me of everyone with Bergvall. And also because Bergvall was playing kind of first team football I know it was in the Swedish league, but he has got more of a taste than anyone else. So I think he's more chance than anyone else.
Brad, your take on those 2 players, and although has made some valid points there, I mean, to play Gray at centre back and leave Ashley Phillips on the bench and natural centre back? How did you sort of
Well, my take on
evaluate that?
my take on that is, okay, all of our centre backs are on holiday or sold, so we've only got Ashley Phillips, and Postecoglou's played two separate teams every match. So Ashley Phillips is only going to get a half, and when we play him in the first half or the second half, I don't think that really means anything at all. I think that they're grooming Archie Gray, to be a number 6, and maybe playing him at centre back was the idea behind that, to give him some experience, see what he's like in a defensive situation, because he's certainly got the ability to get the ball and bring it forward or get rid of it quickly. And I think the same possibly with Bergvall as well, and that he does get rid of the ball pretty quickly and is a forward-thinking player. And someone made the point that with young players, all of the experienced players on Saturday were okay giving them the ball, not a problem. Where sometimes when you get a young player, they go, I'm not going to trust him, I'm going to give it to someone else, someone I know. But they were all very, very trustworthy to give it to players like Bergvall and Gray. It's a shame that Bergvall came off after about 20 minutes, because I didn't really see a lot of him today. But I think Archie Gray was, I mean, Bergvall's been playing in Sweden. Yep, no problems. But Archie Gray was playing in the Championship, which I would hazard a guess is a more difficult league to play in than the Swedish First Division. So
absolutely.
He was Young Player of the Year over there. So he's obviously got a bit of talent there. And I've got a friend in Australia who's gutted, a Leeds fan, who's absolutely gutted that they sold him. So hopefully, and again, hopefully, we've got some players that can do the business. But we'll have to say, I just hope that in the games where they get in, when we sort of say, I'll play them in the League Cup, the Europa League, whatever, I just hope that Ange doesn't put a whole lot in one game, because that could backfire terribly. I hope they just basically ease them in to the first team in these various games and do it that way, rather than.
I think Brad, Ange for me has to learn to play like mixed sides next season.
Yeah. I'm hoping you learn from that, which I'm a big Ange fan, but I'm okay with criticising when I feel like it, and that the one big criticism was that Fulham game, the 9 changes, which I didn't agree with. Having said that, we only went out on penalties, but I think it was too big a change to make. But he hadn't seen those players, so because don't forget, in the pre-season tour last season, we had about 2 games that were called off, didn't we? So he hadn't had a lot of chance. So maybe that was the reason. As I say, I always gave him a free pass last season anyway. So let's hope when he does play them in the League Cup or the Europa League, that he doesn't put them all in at the same time, that he sort of does, as you say, sort of mixes the team up. Because we want to win. At the end of the day, we want to win, and winning breeds winning. And you want these don't forget, these young players, I'm not talking about Bergvall, but players like your Lancashires and your Archie and your Gray, Donnelly, Mikey Moore, they're winners. They've won stuff. They're used to winning. We haven't got that at Tottenham. We've got no one that's used to winning until we sell them, then they win. But that's good. So I think if we get into these competitions, we've got to play to win it. And that doesn't mean, you're not going to do that if you say, well, we're going to play, this Azerbaijan team, we're going to play the all under 21s. It's not going to work. We've got to play the mixed team and surely, give them games, no problems. But make sure your main object in that game is to win the game first.
Well, those two definitely got the physicality for the Premier. I mean, they're both 6'2", and even if you look at Ash Phillips, I mean, he's 6'4". You know? Mark, have you seen much of Bergvall and Gray?
Only the highlights that was on the Tottenham release on YouTube. But I agree with Brad. You can't just pile them all in at once. Just drip feed them in. Give them, like, if we're 3-0 up, give them like 20 minutes. It's because it's very easy with a youngster to ruin their confidence. And I don't agree with when people, he's the next Wayne Rooney, he's the next like this, he's the next that. No, he's not. No, he might be that. Which is why, as you've seen on the previous shows that I've been on, like, it's all right signing these youngsters, but do they really make us better? No, it's an unknown. It's an unknown whether they're going to make us better. They might do. but then again, they might not. I want quality to come in, proven quality.
The issue with that, Mark, the issue with that is we've spent our 50s and 60 million pounds on players and haven't made us any better. In fact, they probably made us worse. So,
well, certainly one has.
I mean, I think that I mean, I agree with you, but my fervent hope is with the scouting and football management team that we've now got, that we will make significantly less errors, and we will be buying better players that have been sourced and checked and what have you will come in. I mean, who on earth bought Ndombele? That's just a hanging offence. I need to say a very, very special good evening to Louis the Best. That's my 10-year-old grandson, who's an extremely good player, and he comes on when I tell him I'm on, usually when he's about. So, hi Lou, and I will get you to come over when we're watching Spurs one afternoon, and you'll see a real football team. I promise.
Can he play left back?
Can he play left back? He's an extremely good forward and does know where the goal is.
Oh, he's a striker.
He absolutely knows where the goal is. 10 years old, but he's quick. He's seriously quick. So
we need a striker.
Louis, 10, you're in, son. You're absolutely in.
Sign him up immediately.
My
take on Graham. I'll go on, Karen. If you
I'll carry on about. I mean, it's right. You can't go. We're not talking about the class of '92 here. I don't think we're going to be sticking 4 and 5 in unless we have a serious injury crisis. In fact, I'd like to see Dragushin and Phillips start on Saturday. I think that would be, an interesting way to show that we are, that we're serious about defending. Brad makes a really interesting point because I've said on shows.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just on the Dragushin, he teams up with us when we go to Korea. He won't be playing in the Japan game.
Oh, he's not going to Japan.
No, he's meeting us in Korea. Be available for the DK All Stars game. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're back to Skip and Gray. But what's interesting is Brad's point. I mean, I've said on a few shows, probably Brad, you've been on them, where I've said that I think Gray is a natural number 6. That's with that ball carrying, tackling, passing number 6. That's where I see him playing. Whether he's a starter come, August the 17th or 19th, wherever we start a game, I'm not sure. And I think, Bissouma's performance on Saturday would suggest that, it's his place to lose now. But, there's 4 games between now and then, or 5 games between now and then. So we'll see. But it's an interesting point about the way that, the way that he might be being trained, and to see, well, that centre half is a pretty good, a pretty good grounding to play in that number 6 role. I hadn't even given that some thought, but what you do see is the boy is quite good in the air. He's more than good in the air. He's a good tackler. He can dribble. He can pass. So he's only 18, but he's another one. But he's, of all the players, the young players that we've got, that I would say, who is going to start at Leicester? Of all the players who will start at Leicester, if any of them, my money would be on Gray, on Archie Gray. That's where my money would be.
QPR have had a massive number 9. Well, he's actually number 14, but a big guy. At therefore Fozzle or something. I to be honest, I thought some guy had won a competition to play for QPR, but he was a proper player. But Archie Gray knocked him off the ball. The ball, and it was just brilliant.
Yeah,
that seeing Oliver Skip try out jumping was sort of 2 of the highlights of that game.
That's interesting. My take on Gray, I have no qualms. I've seen enough of him to know that he will be a star at Spurs. It'll take time, but it'll happen. I was pleasantly surprised with Bergvall coming from a different league, because as you've all alluded to, playing the Championship is good grounding anyway for players. Against Hearts, he had 55 touches. He had more touches in the final third than anyone else. And I was watching him closely, right? And that kid can pass and find a killer ball. He can play as a 10 or an 8, wide right, or whatever. And then Shame against QPR because he was having a good game before he went off with a bit of soreness. Right for Ange not to risk him in case he might have aggravated something. So that was good. So I was pleased to see Bergvall. If I was going to be a bit critical of him, it's recoveries. His recoveries. When he loses the ball, he needs to get back a bit quicker. He needs to be quicker. I'm not sure about his heading or his long-range passing at all, but he has got talent. I've watched him in another video. He has got talent, but he dropped out of form a bit before in Sweden before he comes to us. I don't know if that's because his head was turned. He was coming to Tottenham or not. I don't know. Well, we won't know. The kid has got talent. I mean, he's got an all-round skill set that's better than Gray's, but then they're different. You can't compare them. It's like apples and oranges, really. They're different types of player, full stop. Yeah, so I think they're excellent prospects. I think they will do well, and I think both of them will come on and the fans will love them. I think they'll love both of them. Where shall we go next? Yeah, so we got the first game in Japan. I can imagine that'll be a game of two halves again, two teams. Then that's on the 27th, this Saturday at 11 in the morning for those of you on Spurs Play. And then we fly out to Korea and we play K-League All-Stars in Seoul on Wednesday week. That's the 31st of July at noon. And Dragerson will be available for that game. Whether he starts or gets a second half, obviously he should be fit, shouldn't he? So I don't see why he shouldn't be given game time. And then as Ian alluded to earlier, we play the first of two games against Bayern, but the first one's in Korea before. And I think this is going to be a very telling game. Where he starts to pick his everyone keeps talking about first 11 on squads as if it's restricted to a first 11. I think this is where he picks from his first 16, 18. I think this is what happens. Do you think the same that the Bayern Munich will start to see get an insight into Anne's thinking? He'll have been away.
How many more friendlies are after that? Is that the last one? Or?
Well, we've got, like we say, we've got Japan Saturday, K-League All-Stars on Wednesday that follows that. It's 4 days later. Then we've got on the 3rd of August, which is 3 or 4 days later again, we've got Bayern in Seoul. And then that Bayern game, we come home. That's on the 3rd. And a week later, on the 10th of August, we've got Bayern Munich at the Spurs Stadium. I'm not going. I'm not paying to see a friendly, right? So no, I'm not. So
me neither.
So 10th of August, and then a week later, Saturday the 17th of August, the season starts. But not for us because I think we're playing Monday, aren't we?
Monday the 19th. Yeah.
So we'll have an extra cup. Angela have an extra couple of days with the players than the other teams will. So do you think these Bayern games are going to give us a right? And I'll be looking at the bench as well on this because
I think the one at the stadium will probably be the best indicator because by that point we're back home. So for all we know on the tour, he might start to push out certain people or the other friendlies before we get home. Might push out certain people, and by the end he gets into London. He's like, "This is my 11." Especially because it's at the stadium. So I think that's a factor. I think because it's at Bayern, I still think it'd be experimenting at that point. Because obviously, by the time you get to the home game, it's like a week or just over a week till the Premier League starts for us. Mm-hmm. So by that point, he'll know. Because also, bear in mind, you'd hope by then we'd sign some players. So by the time they come back, at least there'll be some extra players there for him to bed into the team. So, yeah, I'd say that the game at the stadium is probably the most telling.
Another interesting point that we haven't picked up on so far is the goalkeeping position, because I looked at on Saturday it was Gunter had the second half and Austin had the first half. They look pretty capable. Again, they're still young, they're still learning the trade, but they look pretty capable. So I think that going forward, especially with the fact that Austin signed the contract, going forward, I don't really feel we need to be looking for that number two. I mean, let's face it, we haven't really had a decent number two keeper for a long while now. Mm-hmm. I mean, Forster does his best, but I think those two, Gunter in the playoff final was brilliant. Absolutely, he put some brilliant saves.
He's been brilliant all season for the under-21s. And
Yeah.
don't forget, Josh Keeley's out on loan.
Exactly.
Just on Austin. Austin's 24, 25, Brad. He
Yeah.
signed a 5-year contract.
Yeah,
you know?
and he's quite tall as well. He looks assured. Again, it's only a friendly against QPR, but yeah, I think that
I'm with you with that, Brad, though, because I don't think we should be wasting any money on a goalkeeper.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
don't think we have to. I think it's all. I think Forster did okay. I mean, someone said on there, was it Conte was the signing of the season, wasn't he, for free? So, but yeah, I mean, I just remember him from the Fulham game, and he was not good in that Fulham game. The League Cup during the penalties. I mean, I could have done better in goal that day in the penalty shootout. But yeah, I think the two keepers that I saw on Saturday looked very, very assured. And while I saw Whiteman 2 or 3 years ago, he looked half decent as well. And as you say, this Josh Keeley guy. So I think goalkeepers, I think we're pretty well sorted.
There was rumours of a link with Garcia Espanyol, but I don't think we're going to go looking for it. There's no hurry to go looking for a goalkeeper, is there? And by this time, the other goalkeepers will have another season under a belt. Vuskovic comes in at the end of next season, another centre back. I think we're looking good. We've got most areas covered apart from their front three, which is Pence. And our midfield was Pence, second half of the last season as well. And I'm glad because it was good to see. What did you think? I thought Basuma looked like he's been given a kick up the jacksie with these new players coming in. It looks like he looked a bit sharp in that game, didn't he, against QPR? Go on, Brad. Sorry.
I was going to say that it's the summer Basuma, isn't it? He's good in the summer.
What do you think of Basuma has? I wasn't impressed towards the end of last season, I must admit. Andrew Madison was pants as well.
You won't like my opinion on him, really, but I think he's a bit of a flash in the pan player. I think, don't get me wrong, I actually like Basuma or Richarlison to an extent. I think they're good as squad players. Because personally, I'm in the camp. I don't want to sell Richarlison. I think we need to keep him. Because I think he's useful. But I think with those players at smaller clubs, they were shining. But since they went to a club which was top 6, I guess, they're not the big fish anymore. So they're just not the same level. If we really want to win something, he's not really the level he should be at. So, but I still keep keeping them around for at least another year. And I still think he'll get games next season. I just don't want him really to be starting. So,
Mark, are you a fan of Basuma or not?
When we brought him in, yes, but that soon dwindled. I mean, I thought he was going to be the Dembele that we needed, but he hasn't really turned out. Hopefully, he's got a kick at the backside. He's going to show the player that we bought, because he was brilliant at Brighton, absolutely brilliant. He schooled us, didn't he? Was it when we played him at home that he ran the game?
We lost 1-0 in that game.
Exactly.
It says a lot when Sarr was our best midfielder, in my opinion, last season, right? Ian,
20-year-old.
Take on Basuma.
Sorry, did you ask me? I'm
a
a fan. I was delighted when we signed him. To say that I haven't been disappointed since he came, other than a few cameos, would be an understatement. You go, where is that player?
Yeah.
But good players don't become bad players overnight. They change for a reason, whether it's the system or whether it's the environment or whether it's their confidence or what, I don't know. But he was a good player. He was excellent before his goal against Queen's Park Rangers, and that goal was just sublime. If that Basuma, and I know it's QPR, and I know it's a friendly, if that Basuma is starting next season, I am over the moon, because he's as good as anybody in that position. But he has to understand it. That performance has to come week in, week out. It can't be a flash in the pan. And, sorry, let me just, one point, Adrian, you sometimes listen to social media and you think, Spurs social media, and you think everybody thinks you've got to have 2 world-class players in every position. But you certainly got to have two decent ones. And if, for example, we had Bissouma first half performance against QPR and Gray fighting for that number 6 spot, I think that's as good as anybody's got.
Yeah. My take on Bissouma, not just Bissouma, I'm not going to dip him out. We all know that, man, he's got quality. I've got this big issue, guys, when it comes down to, you'll get fans say, well, if the manager can get a tune out of this player or that player. My argument's always been, why can't the player get a tune out of himself? I mean, like I get annoyed with this. I've seen this over and over again, with our crap mentality at the club. And I've said it on a few podcasts. I said, we're like flat track bullies when we start the first season. We go 10 games without winning, got a Premiership record, 8 wins and 2 draws. Then, all right, things did go badly. We had 22 injuries last season, more than any other team, right? We did. So that did affect us. There's no two ways about it with that. And that's not an excuse, right? But my argument is, in some of those games, when things were going wrong and Andrew would bring on Højbjerg or Skip to try and shore it up, right? These players couldn't dig in. My argument's always been, like, when fans have turned around, I said it months and months ago before others picked it up on Danny's show. I said, there are not enough aggressive players in the Spurs squad. And people were saying, what do you mean? I said, it's not about leaders. You shouldn't need motivating when you go on that pitch, right? It's not about leaders. It's about motivating yourself and being a winner. And I like aggressive players because aggressive players are winner. They'll fight for the ball. You get two of them wrestle for a throw-in. You'll have your player and the opposing player wrestle until the linesman or referee points in the direction the throw is going to be taken. That's what you want to see. When I'm not talking about silly yellow cards now for like diving or like, dissent, which players should be fined for, in my opinion, anyway. But I don't mind the odd yellow card. When Richarlison, a couple of seasons ago, was picking up the yellow card and suspension, the fan base were going, get rid of him. 6 months earlier, they were saying like, oh, we need a dog of war in midfield, or we need someone like to stick their foot in and things. You can't have it both ways, can you? And I still think the squad lacks aggression. I actually think that Gray gives us a bit more bite, and we'll see how the others perform. So that's sort of my take on the Bissouma thing. Like, yeah, get a tune out yourself. Get a tune out yourself. That's my attitude to players like that, because you're paid enough money, right?
Yeah.
If you've got other side issues or other problems outside the game, that's different. If that's affecting you, that's different. Well, then you tell the coach you don't play. You don't play until you're right in the head, So, right, moving on. I want to talk about something controversial, guys. It needs talking about because this has been pussyfooted for it, and it's like gets me up. I want to talk about the Colombia-Uruguay incident, and I want to talk about the Argentina incident. We'll have a mature, sensible debate on this, right? That's happened recently. Now, in the past, we've seen it with UEFA when you've had monkey charts in Eastern European games, blah, blah, blah. All they've ever done is pussyfooted a bit. They've gone, they've fined, banned people, or they've just said you've got to play a game behind closed doors. There's been talk from Kick It Out and other various areas that, like, when that happens, the players should just walk off the pitch. But the Uruguay-Colombia incident was a bit different. Kaz, did you see it? Your take on it?
Is this
the
bench court incident we're talking about, or something else?
Yes, because it affects us indirectly. Yes. Yeah.
I think we spoke about it on some of the stream. That's why it's going to my head again. So I think in regards to Benzko's future at Spurs, I don't think he has one at this point. I think we're too far gone now with him. Obviously, he had the Sonny thing as well, and now this. I think he, as I say, is it running a tightrope? Is that what it is? Yeah. And I think his time is going to come to an end. When it does, I don't know, because I was reading he's one of the players who is on a break since he played in the Copa America. And obviously some of the players from the Euros are coming back as well. But I imagine when he comes back, I think they'll just sell him back to Italy. I think he'll go back to Italy.
Brad, your take on the Colombia-Uruguay incident?
I don't know a lot about it, to be honest. From what I understand, the Colombian fans was going against the Uruguay fans, and the Uruguay fans were the family of the players or something or other.
Yeah.
And the players basically got involved because it was their family. So you could make and as I said, I don't know a lot about it. You could make the argument, if you see your family in the crowd and they're being housed, you're going to try and defend them. So if that was the case, then I guess you could argue there's not, that's what you do. I mean, I famously was there when Eric Dyer walked into the stand, and we've all seen the photograph. And he was potentially, defending his brother who was in the stand. So if that's the case, well, then you could allow a little bit of leeway. But yeah, it doesn't seem good. Did he throw off some? I know Nunes.
He threw a bottle, I think.
Yeah, threw something.
2 bottles, wasn't
it?
Yeah, you can allow a little bit of leeway to go and protect your family, but there's certain things. I mean, if you throw a bottle to protect your family, unless you're a very good thrower, you could hit anyone, couldn't you? Really? So yeah, going to the stand to be there maybe, but I don't know. As I say, I don't.
Brad,
really know.
weren't you the person with the Dyer thing as well, right? When you thought he was running towards you? Is that
I
you?
did, yeah. No, no.
Yes.
A word for lie, because
Yeah.
just very, very quickly, I was actually glaring at, because we lost on penalties to Norwich, and I was basically glaring at the players, and then he suddenly jumps the bar and starts coming up towards me. And in my mind, he's coming towards me. In hindsight, it's totally ridiculous, but in my mind at the time, he's going away, and then he's literally about a yard away, and he starts pointing behind me at someone and swearing like anyone would, I guess. And he walked straight past me, but he was angry. He was definitely angry, and I was there like, it was one of those Tinamon Square moments, the guy in front of the tank sort of thing. But that's what in my mind it could have been. But yeah, it's he and let's face it, Mourinho said that he half agreed with what he did. So yeah, I don't know. I don't, as I say, I don't know enough about it. I guess they'll have a investigation. And then,
they've took all the film evidence, and 11 players, I think, are facing charges.
And then that's got to go to the club, and then Tottenham have got to make a decision. They've got to look at that, and that's got to come down to people at the club. It's got to come down to Ange Postecoglou.
It's all sub-judice at the moment. Mark, your take on it? You've seen some of the clips, haven't you?
Yeah. I saw some of it. Now I can understand who was it that went in the crowd and actually was fighting with people.
That's Nunes, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, Nunes, because I haven't seen this clip, but apparently he takes a good one on the chin.
Yeah.
But he gives it out as well. He gives it out as well. Now, put it this way: if your family's in the crowd and there's a load of rumpus going on and they're being attacked and whatever happened, you're going to go in there and sort it out, not stand on the pitch and throw bottles. Because unless you feel
That's the reason I brought up what Brad said, because I thought to myself, surely Ben would have run into the stands or something.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm coming. I mean, this is what I'm coming to. Unless you're Phil Taylor, and you can throw stuff like him, Lord knows who you're going to hit.
Yeah,
and one of them was a glass bottle as well. You only got to catch someone in the eye with that.
Yeah,
I mean, and then there's the sunny stuff as well. I mean, it's things that I don't want to sound, I'm going to go very careful what I say, but like, that people may say this, but it's different if you're down a pub with your mates, or if you're on a global stage where everything you say is clipped and like broadcast anyway. I mean, he should have known better, especially the sunny thing. Well, and the chucking the bottles in the crowd. I mean, because if he'd have done what Dyer done, Brad's famous photo that all of us have seen, that if he'd have done that and gone in the crowd, then you just said fair play to him. If his mum, his dad, his wife, whoever was in there, you just said fair play to him. But
on David Shear's point here, apparently what I've learned since, you guys probably have as well, is that a lot of fans got into the game for nothing, either forced entry or whatever. Then there was going to be a period where they were going to get them out, which was going to be impossible. So that didn't help. There will be mitigating circumstances.
Personally, the people who were sort of the security at the stadium have got to be looked at, because you've got to remember the World Cup's in that stadium next year.
It was
a couple of years.
Well, I think the security was the responsibility of the people running the tournament, like
Yeah.
FIFA, rather than the actual American. Because I think they've had Super Bowls there, they've had all sorts of things,
Yeah.
no problems, and they normally have like a ring around, a security ring around the area where you need a ticket to actually get near the stadium in the first place. Which apparently,
well, I saw clips and people just barging them out the way because they just had a line of security, and then I saw the bit where they were climbing in the ventilation ducts. You know, it was just mayhem.
Yeah.
It was like mayhem.
The security was really bad from what I saw.
Yeah.
Ian, your take? Go on, Brad. Finish, Brad.
I was going to say, we saw it at the European Championship final at Wembley, didn't we?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everyone sort of went mad at that, but again, that was poorly. You know, you can't ask a steward to keep people out. You know, that's the job of the police to do that. You know, security, not a steward. But yeah, sorry.
Ian, your take on this?
Thing. I've wondered what was going to happen with it. It seems to have gone a little bit quiet, but we will see. I'm reserving judgment on that. I'm more concerned, I guess, with the racist chanting by the Argentines in the dressing room, and it seems to be something that's a pretty universal chant across Argentina about France and what have you. I mean, I don't know what the club's view on it is. I mean, they're two valuable players, they're assets. I mean, are the club going to hope it blows over, particularly with Romero? I'm assuming Romero was singing it the same as everybody else. Not a nice song. Not a nice song at all.
I think with Bentancur, it's easier to sell him because he had that injury. So I think it's easier to kind of push him out. With Romero, it's harder because he's like vice captain. He also has already been linked with Real Madrid. So I guess you could argue both ways, but I think he's a bit harder to push out than because he's more valuable, I think, than Bentancur, if I'm being honest. And I'm coming from someone who I've been a Bentancur fan since day one, and he's probably one of my favorite players, especially in Conte's last season. I just think there's more chance of him leaving than Romero, I think.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I just want to throw this into the mix and come around you again. I mean, we've seen this in Eastern Europe with monkey chants, right? Now, we know that the culture in this country in the 70s was probably what we've seen out there, right? I know it was anyway, right? But we've moved on for education. We're I like to think we're more civilized now. We know that the culture in South America is totally different. It's nothing to them. They didn't report on the Bentancur instance saying, "Oh, Asians all look the same" or something like that, because to them it's just nothing to them, right? We've seen it in Eastern Europe. We know there's racism in redneck states in America as well, right? But when it's come down to FIFA and UEFA, I mean, they hate these situations. They don't even want to deal with them, don't they? Because they haven't got the bottle to deal with them. They're both corrupt organisations anyway, in my opinion. And like, they'll either hand out a barn or close a stadium. And now, all right, the Colombia thing Uruguay was different. That was more a fight scene. But regarding the racism, as Ian brings up, I mean, to me, if players want to walk off the field, that's fine. But then you get into the issue of, well, would that cause civil unrest in the crowd if fans, got a stadium full of fans that haven't seen the game? It is a hard call, but then they should do something external to the game afterward. The punishment should be where you don't exacerbate the problem by players walking off the pitch. I understand why they would want to do it in any game in the Premier League if it happened, but I think that could cause more trouble than it's worth. But then you've got to then bring in penalties for this. And I'm a believer of the fact that, like, when any players come to your football club now in our league, in our country, right, in the UK, right, that we should have some sort of liaison officer there anyway. If he comes from a foreign country and you know that their culture is different to us, these players should be sat down, not individually in case they think they've been picked on. Oh, I'm from South America. The whole squad should have education, right? Because
this is what you say. This is what you say. This is what you don't say.
Yeah,
you know,
you
in
come from a
interviews.
country, you word it carefully, like you say. You have to pick your words very carefully when dealing with this, because if you say something wrong, people will pounce on you, and then they'll call you this, that, or the other, right, and label you. Ian, what's your take on this? You're muted, Ian. I think you're muted, mate.
He was eating.
Sorry, I apologise. I was reading about Jonathan David because I thought it might be relevant. So I have no idea what the question is.
Well, I was saying, like, because was you listening? And when I was saying about the, UEFA and FIFA, they seem to sit on their hands in situations, and like I was saying, like, especially we should set an example in the Premier League by having some sort of liaison officer with a whole squad of players from the seniors down to the under-9s, right? That these players are educated. So you're not just, when a foreign player comes in, you sit him in for an educational lesson and dip him out individually, because I don't think that's right. But you have these sessions with players and say, look, in this country, this is not acceptable. This sort of, and you can give examples. You can say, look, what happened to Colombia, Uruguay, what happened to Argentina, and put loads of examples up so you're not dipping out one. And say,
Adrian, they have so much media training now, these guys. They are all so media savvy. They're trained. I mean, you can bet your bottom dollar that Mikey Moore has had a fair amount of media training already, as an example. So whether these guys have just let their guard down or don't really understand, because, there are some societies, I mean, someone in the chat, I think it may have been David, says that, there's racism everywhere and it's wrong. Well, no one's going to argue that, but there are some cultures that are inherently racist, but probably don't really understand why other people would be offended by, a society like Argentina, I think is pretty well predominantly white, predominantly Catholic, or predominantly Christian anyway, would sing songs like that, but would find that the rest of the world would find what they're singing repugnant. I think a lot of this stuff is cultural. So, it's all very well when they're working in the UK and working in Europe and what have you, but when they go back to their home countries and mix with their own people and mix with their own players and are back in their own culture, then suddenly it becomes maybe different. Albeit, of course, they were playing in the United States, which I don't know, was the final in Florida? I've lost track.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's Florida.
It was, which has got a huge Hispanic population, but a big black population as well, as has most of the United States. So I don't really get it. I just don't really get it. But remember the Spanish manager when I can't remember who the player was. He said, but he was filmed saying about Thierry Henry. You don't want to get beat by this black, do you? And we've seen it in Europe where, our players, our English players have been jeered. The black players have been jeered. And I mean, you think, just walk off, please, just walk off. But, that's the only way to deal with it. But, you've raised the issue of UEFA and FIFA, Adrian, and there's now a legal challenge because, and I think this has been coming. I've said on streams before, I am deeply concerned about the way that UEFA and particularly FIFA appear to want to dominate the entire game and relegate the domestic leagues and club football to a sideshow, which is not what people want. So it is, I think, long overdue that the domestic leagues across the world took on FIFA and UEFA and actually cut their power. The
Premier League are taking them to court. The Premier League are taking them to court. Yeah,
but unfortunately, until someone trims their wings a little bit, this is going to come on to carry on.
Right.
Looking at
Part of the problem, it's another debate, but part of the problem is, of course, that the four British nations have a vested interest in keeping FIFA going more or less as it is, because there are 8 seats on the FIFA board, of which the home nations have 1 each. So, no wonder they wouldn't want to give that up.
I think with the, I don't know what they were singing. I just read it, some racist song against the French. But I guess that what they'll do they'll obviously wait to see what the report is. But they'll probably do what they did with Bentancur with that, diversity training or whatever they call it. They'll probably do the same with Romero, I would say, and that'll be the end of it. Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one because you have, at some stage, you have to say, right, that's it. You're out. We won't tolerate this. But then you thought,
right.
Sorry, can I just come in quickly? Some people say they don't know what the song is.
Hang on, 1 minute. Haz, have you got to go?
Yeah, I've got to go. Sorry.
Yeah. Right. We'll go to Haz because I think he's got to go. You on Hasbro TV?
Yeah, Hasbro TV. Yeah. So
well, I'll put your link in the chat. Please get over and sub to him.
I was going to say, sorry. This is a quick thing before I go. I used to work in schools, so we used to be trained on this sort of stuff, almost like yearly / weekly. In terms, obviously, it's not the same thing like racism, but in terms of treatment and that sort of thing. But if players had this every season, because you were talking about new players, right? If they all did like 1 session each season and got their reward, I thought it was cool. We used to get like some like reward or something for it, or something like a certificate. So they did like their racism training or something. I don't know. Then maybe something like that could work, but I don't know if they already do that. I can only theorize.
What, like I'm a nice guy certificate? Yeah.
we do it. To be fair, we do it at Harrods. At Harrods, we do every sort of training you can think of.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Something like that.
Yeah. And you have to do it. It's compulsory. You have to do it, and you have to pass it. So yeah.
Have you got to go ahead? Yeah. Well, thanks
for having me on. So
you'll get future invites, right?
I should be free. Just message me in it. So,
yeah. Cheers. Hopefully catch up with you in the if it's still open, the bar. I can't remember. My memory's just gone now.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. If they finished refurbishing it, only been taken about a year.
Yeah. Yeah. They're doing the spoons down my road as well. I don't know why, but they're refurbishing.
I think the whole company is doing it worldwide, countrywide.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah. Beavertown, that's it. The Beavertown.
Yeah. Right, see you later, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, take care, mate.
Yeah. Hey, Adrian, what I was going to say before Haz went was the song apparently is something like, his dad's an Algerian, his mum's from Cameroon, but his passport says he's French, or something along that line. I mean, yeah, you get the drift. I mean, obviously,
Jose said something that, because he speaks fluent Spanish, and he said he couldn't really understand it because it's sort of got a bit of a twang. It's a bit like when I speak.
Yeah,
and he said he couldn't pick up on he couldn't really. Well, he was on. Well, he was on your show Sunday, and he said he speaks fluent Spanish, and he couldn't really understand it.
Well, that was good, guys. Anyway, at least we like to keep everything, even if it's controversial, mature, and sensible. Yeah, right. We'll just move on to a little bit of transfers, and we've got a bit of a fun ending. So let's see if you've got time to stick with us, you guys. We've got so 2 players were left behind, Reguilon and Lo Celso.
Hill.
Sorry, Reguilon and Hill. Yeah, sorry. Not too much on where Reguilon may be going, although left. No doubt we will get shot of him. Hill again has been linked with Girona strongly and Sevilla again, and even Spence, although he's away on tour, has been linked with Galatasaray. So we've got rid of quite a few players. I mean, so that would be like Emerson, Celso, Gil, Gill and Reguilon to go, those forward, but virtually clear them out, guys. I mean, like, be happy to see them go, Brad?
Brian Hill certainly, and that's nothing to do with him as a player. I just think it's fair on him. He obviously wasn't in Conte's plans. He obviously wasn't in Postecoglou's plans. He's a decent player. I just don't think he's strong enough for the Premiership, and I think he'll go back to Seville or whoever it might be and be a big success. So I think you can't keep players like that. It's not fair on them. So yeah, I'm glad if he gets a decent transfer to a decent club. As far as Reguilon, I always thought he was quite decent as an attacking fullback. Hello, Brian. How you doing, mate? And but my manager's a Brentford fan, and he was actually suitably impressed with Reguilon when he was on loan there. So hopefully maybe there might be a sale there.
I always rated Reguilon.
Yeah, no, I had nothing against him.
I always liked him.
Yeah, I was quite surprised when when I think Sessegnon got the nod instead of him on the Tour de l'Aster under Conte. But yeah, I think he's playing. I think the Man United fans liked him and the Brentford fans like him. So yeah, hopefully that'll be the case. He'll find the place.
Mark, comments on the outgoings? You think like we'll have got rid of all the deadwood by the end of this window?
We have Brian Hill. I mean, you've only got to look at what we give for him. Is it 25 million plus?
Yeah,
Lamella
plus Lamella. You know, I mean, we spent a ton of money on him, and he just hasn't fitted. You know, he's not a Premier League player. You know, he'd be brilliant in Spain, or slower pace.
Yeah,
less physical league. He'd be brilliant, but you just it comes back to the fact that did we do the due diligence on him? You know, I mean, I wish him all the best. Or, we haven't really seen him, have we?
No.
You know, and personally, Reguilon, if I had a choice, I'd keep him. You know, because I always liked Reguilon, but I could never understand why he went in the first place. To be honest, because was it when Mourinho was here? He was playing. I believe it was. Was it Mourinho?
Yeah, because he came over with Bale, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mourinho's first. Well, he started to end it, but yeah.
I always thought he looked good. He always got forward, didn't he? And I didn't think he was that bad defensively. You know, personally, I'd keep him as the backup.
Well, we do need a left back, Ian.
Well, exactly.
Ian, you happy to see?
No, I like Reguilon, but there's just sometimes you have to say the people that are in the jobs making the decisions, you have to trust them. There's since Poch left, none of the managers have really, by the look of it, fancied Reguilon at all. I don't know if that's true, but
I forgot that. Yeah, well, he had a part. He had a party during the lockdown. Is that right?
Well, they all did, didn't they?
Yeah.
But if he had a party during the lockdown, that may be indicative of his overall attitude.
Yeah, it was Christmas,
certainly not what it's certainly not what Postecoglou wants. I mean, Postecoglou's looking for solid, dependable pros who will put their life on the line for the club. So that's probably why. And he's a decent footballer. So you have to ask, why has there not been a queue? He did all right with Man United, not queuing up to buy him. He did very well at Brentford, not queuing up to buy him, not queuing up and saying, okay, if you want to take Tony, we want Reguilon. That would make sense. So there's obviously an issue there. I don't know what it is, but this is one of those ones where, maybe Soren's right and the party in lockdown, I forgot about that. And maybe you just have to say, I trust the people that are making the decisions, or at least I have to trust the people that are making the decisions that they know best.
Well, that's two managers now, isn't it? Because Conte didn't take him on the tour.
No.
Yeah, so that's two managers now.
Yeah. Right, we're going to move on to a fun section, which is the way we're going to be finishing all our podcasts in the future. So if we do get a real long-dated or intense debate at all at any time, that we can finish on a light-hearted moment, yeah? So what this will consist of The last thing will consist of a fun thing called Spurs Empty Trophy Cabinet, right? But prior to that, guests on here, yeah. Well, I'll give you more clues when we get to it. But first of all, before we can move to that, we're going to have a panel and guest Q&A. It's pretty light. I mean, basically, I will ask, or Ian will, or Ellie will, or Cheng will when they're hosting. You know, they'll ask you, right, well, I'm going to start with you, Brad. How did you become a Spurs fan?
My father, quite simply. My father was a Spurs fan. His brother or my uncle was Spurs. The whole family, I mean, my dad was born in Edmonton. The whole family was Spurs. Ironically, my auntie's late husband was Arsenal, but his son was Spurs as well. So, yeah, it's through my dad. He was born in Edmonton. We lived in Hoddesdon, which is Tottenham territory, basically. So a lot of kids at school were Tottenham. Yeah, that's simple as that, really, through my family.
Mark, how did you become a Spurs fan?
Well, obviously you can tell that I don't live in London. Or, you know.
It's the shirt, yeah.
Oh yeah. We all wear Threadpares down here. Well, it's my dad. It's my dad, same as Brad. It's my dad. I honestly had no choice in the matter. Like, obviously, I live in Somerset, so my dad took me to White Hart Lane before he took me to our local football team, and so I really had no choice but to support Tottenham. It was either that or I was in an orphanage, I think.
Ian, how did you become a Spurs fan? You're on mute, Ian. You're on mute. You're on mute.
My dad left school at 14 and went to work in Fleet Street.
Rings a bell with me.
And you know, people are, why does football kick off at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon? Well, it kicked off at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon because working men worked till 12, 1 o'clock on a Saturday morning. That was the working day. So, well, that's yeah, okay. Get me singing that, sorry, and you do not want to hear me singing. You know, there's 14,000 in the chat at the moment, and I don't want to put them all off. So, I mean, he used to go to Stamford Bridge on a Saturday afternoon, although he was an East End boy, so really Leighton Orient was the local team. But we lived in Enfield, in sort of near Freezy Water, that part of along the Hertford Road, and everybody was Spurs there. Now, I was born in Leeds, so I had a little thing. I supported Leeds, but I also supported Tottenham and Spurs, because Jimmy Greaves played for both Tottenham and Spurs. And I remember going to a game about 67 or whatever it was, and Spurs were playing Leeds, and Spurs scored, and I jumped up and cheered, and that was it. I was no longer Tottenham and Spurs. I was no longer Tottenham, Spurs, and Leeds. I was Spurs, and that was me from about 7 years old. And unfortunately, it's been a penance I've suffered ever since.
Well, for me, I mean, I'll be 70 in January, right? And I had the pleasure of seeing the double being won when I was like 5 years of age. I couldn't take it all in. I was too young to absorb the enormity of the situation. But I was a trophy hunter, you know what I mean? Because we kept winning trophies when I was a kid, you know. We won the league and we won FA Cups and we won the Cup Winners' Cup, and then we beat Chelsea in 67. I thought it was never going to end, you know.
You fool.
Yeah, so, I mean, and then I progressed from like relative shoulders to a stall to standing on my own in the shop, you know. I didn't have a choice in the matter. Like I say, it was either Spurs or the orphanage, you know what I mean? So that was my stint. Right. The second question we're going to ask all of you, start with you, Brad. Just one, because each time you come on, we'll get round robbing this again with whoever's on. Right. A favourite Spurs player, a particular Spurs victory, a special goal, an old or new stadium experience. Just pick one and give us one.
Oh, my favourite player is the easiest one. I'm privileged to have seen Jimmy Greaves play. He was my favourite player, and this is a memory. I remember him being at Tottenham. I saw my first game in 1967. Ironically, it was the last home game before the FA Cup final in 1967, but I didn't go to the final. I didn't watch the final. I was outside playing with my mates. I've never worked that one out. Why that
You
happened.
missed out on Frank Saul and Jimmy Robertson helping us beat Chelsea 2-1.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. But the week before, I saw my first game, which I remember. I remember people in the south, the old Park Lane standing up a tier, people standing up, people sitting down, and I'm going to my dad, what happened? Did we score? And we won 2-0. And I remember being so loud as a young kid. But then the next Saturday, I'm out playing whatever, Cowboys and Indians or whatever we used to play in those days, whilst my parents were watching the cup final. And I've never worked out why. But Jimmy Greaves, I remember, watching him play. I remember going to a pub with the family, went to the pub, and I was really upset because I was going to miss match of the day because apparently Jimmy Greaves had scored won the goal that day. And the pub landlord said, "Oh, look, we've got a little room out the back with a TV. You're quite welcome to go in there and watch it." And we all went in the room and watched match of the day because this is before you could record it. So, yeah, Jimmy Greaves. I remember the fans used to say Jimmy for England because obviously, 1969, he had one of his best ever years. He never got recalled by England, but I remember the fans singing that. So, yeah, Jimmy Greaves, definitely my favourite. And I feel privileged to have seen, when I saw Harry Kane break his record, I feel absolutely privileged to see that moment because that's a record that I thought would never be broken. And probably Kane's record will never be broken either. So.
Yeah, and a striker would get you 40 goals a season. We'd love a striker to get us 20.
And he just had that magical ability. I mean, you guys are probably old enough to remember the free kick he scored against Liverpool, where I think it was Venables and someone else were arguing who's going to take it, and Jimmy Greaves just stepped up and took it and scored. All these sort of moments that he was famous for. But and it's funny that now that a lot of people only know him as being a TV personality. It's really weird. Really, really weird.
Mark, same question to you. A favourite Spurs player, a particular Spurs victory, a special goal, an old or new stadium experience, or anything else you want to add that might be on that list?
No, everyone who knows me through YouTube is expecting me to say Gary Mabbott, obviously, because like Gary, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I have been for 30. Did you not know that, Brad? When I met you?
Oh, you might have told me, but I might have been drunk. But yeah, no.
I was going to say I was drunk anyway when I met you. I've been type 1 diabetic since 1991. Everyone expects me to say Gary Mabbott, but Glenn Hoddle was my hero when I was a kid. I'm not old enough to remember Jimmy Greaves. Although my dad took me to a local game, I think I would have been 7 or 6. And Jimmy Greaves was playing for Barnet.
Oh, that's right, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
And at the end of the game,
goal, according to him, that was his best ever goal he scored for Barnet. Yeah. Volley from outside the box, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the game I went to because I googled it and we drew 0-0. Right. And we drew 0-0 with them. But at the end of the game, my dad sent me on the pitch to get. He said, "Go over and get that man's autograph." And I didn't know who he was. I was only like 6. And I ran over to him, "Hey, mister, can you sign this?" and he signed the Jimmy Greaves testimonial program for my dad.
Wow.
But so my favorite player was Glenn Hoddle, without a shadow of a doubt. When I was growing up, he was just like, how he never got more England caps is mystifying.
You know what, Mark? There's a comedy show. I can't remember what it's called now, and they had a comedy book, and I think it might have been not Newman and Baddiel, but Newman was, I think, one of the guys who is a Tottenham fan, and the comedy book was the 8 of the comedy. So everything had a comedy thing attached to it. Hoddle. This is not a joke at all. The fact that he never played more games for England is criminal. Yeah. It's the only thing in the whole book that wasn't funny, but because Newman's a Tottenham
He played 50-odd games for England. Our dealers said if he'd been Argentina, he'd have played 150.
Yeah. But as far as England goes, he just wasn't a typical English midfielder. He was silky, skillful. Yeah. I mean, I used to go to White Hart Lane a lot when Hoddle was playing. Like my dad, it was because of all the trouble back then, and me being so young. My dad would only take me to games that he thought there'd be no fighting and all that. But some of the stuff I saw when I was like 5, 6, 7, it really, it was scary. But and my favorite the game I was at is when we beat Liverpool 1-0 in the cup at Anfield.
Oh, wow.
It was the fifth round or sixth round. It was the year we lost to Everton in the semis.
Oh, that's 2-1, wasn't it, with Klinsmann?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liverpool
Right, we
scored.
can save that moment because that's 2 then, right? I'll move to Ian.
Sorry.
Ian,
Sorry.
we'll save it for another show. Right. Favourite Spurs player, particular victory, special goal, an old or new stadium experience for you?
I don't even know where to start. I mean, I started going sort of 66.
One save the rest for other
67.
shows.
One play. It's just, I mean, I started going in the era of, Mackay was still playing, Jennings, Kinnear, Knowles,
Jennings,
Dave Mackay, Chivers, Greaves, Gilzine. And then the Hoddle, Diaz, Villa. My dad adored Diaz. Just absolutely adored him. I'm going to go with Stevie P. Pat Jennings, though, what a goalkeeper! Definitely the best. And we had season tickets in the old North Stand behind the goal, and you saw what that man did when he came out and caught it one-handed and stuff. It's when now they punch when there's a player within 15 yards of them. It's he must despair. I'm going to go with Stevie Perryman.
Good choice.
I'm just going to go with Stevie P.
850 odd appearances for the club.
Saw his debut. We were a number 11 as a 17-year-old, and we lost to Sunderland 1-0.
That will never ever be broken, his appearance record.
No, I don't think it will be now.
No, definitely not.
Apart from anything else, it was a 42-game season, and we kept getting to cups. No one's going to stay with a club that long. Unless Mikey Moore stays with us for 20 years.
I do believe that back that way, behind me, he played his first competitive game as a school kid on Ealing Common.
Okay. Yeah, I know he's an Ealing boy.
Yeah. And to add to it, sorry to cut in here, and I'll let you carry on in a minute. To add to it, for those in the chat and watching on playback that don't know, because Perryman with us is 14 years, I think, and that's without his youth honours, he won 2 League Cups, 2 FA Cups, and 2 UEFA Cups, 6 trophies. Not people really realise he's got fantastic. He's a trophy kid, and he's still going strong with his podcast. Go on, Ian. Sorry.
So what were you looking for? The best
player,
goal?
you said you picked Perryman, why?
I picked Perryman. You want a goal?
No. What anything about him what you particularly liked about him as his captaincy or whatever?
Well,
and all that?
When I started seeing him, when I started watching him, he was a defensive midfield player in an old 4-4-2 formation that clubs used to play then. And then he became a centre half alongside Keith Osgood, I think it was predominantly. And then he went a right back. So you talk about versatility, and he was Mr. Captain. Wait, cast your mind back a bad game Stevie Perryman played, because you're going to be here all night, because I cannot remember a bad game he played.
Did he not score in 17 consecutive seasons, or 16, or?
He was never a prolific goal scorer.
No, he wasn't. But I'll always
no. But he scored in, I think it is. I brought this up on another show I was on, and there's one player that's beat it. He scored in something like 16 or 17 consecutive seasons.
I remember the 2 goals he got against Milan at one.
Oh, you've taken the words out of my mouth.
Sorry, and I was there.
No, I remember that. I was just what I was going to say.
Sorry,
those 2 goals he scored, because no one thought we would beat.
No.
It was AC Milan, wasn't it? It was AC Milan. It was Milan.
Again, we were going to see that match, but it was just couldn't get in, basically. Yeah.
You do remember players who don't score goals. I mean, sadly, the reason my Spurs immune system is so strong is because I was supporting the club when we got relegated and followed the club in the 2nd division. And I
went to the final game of that season when we got relegated.
Southampton away, yeah?
No. No, the season we got relegated from Division
Oh,
One.
right. Yeah, I was there as well. And like, because I remember being at Notts County, standing on a mud bank. There's ain't got stadiums like you are now. It's like steps of mud in the open, rain pouring. This is what, but you went. This is how hard you were. These games, you know, remember? So these grounds, they all had open ends and mud banks, and the away fans were always bunged in the opening. And you would huddle together when it rained to stop the rain from soaking you completely. Like, and like the reason I remember the Notts County games because Johnny Pratt, a very underrated player, in my opinion, never scored many goals, but we're 3-1 down at half time. And he hits like 2 20-yarders in the second half. And we finished 3-3, you know. We scraped back into the Premier League then. But then we got Oddly Dealers, Crooks and Archibald, you know. Go on in. Sorry.
It was 9-0 that year as well.
Yeah, we did, yeah. That's when I was living in Australia and I just bought
Colin Lee scored 4, Ian Moore's got
shortwave radio, listen to
shortwave radio.
Yeah.
I was at Charlton the week. Sorry, Brad. I was at Charlton the week before where we were all over Charlton and we lost 4-1.
Yeah, Howes scored a hat
the week before that.
Flanagan and Howes were playing.
That's it.
Yes. I think Howes scored a hat trick.
Yeah, Howes got a hat trick. Maybe Flanagan got the other one. I don't know who got the other one.
I think Flanagan got the other because Flanagan was a youth player at Tottenham.
Because we were stuck in here with the Millwall fans. So it was all going off big time.
Something like that. So we got absolutely dumped, and then we came back and won 9-0. But yeah.
So Perryman for you.
Perryman for me.
When people say what my favourite Spurs player was, I was cheat at first. I go, the double side was my favourite Spurs player. But if I've got to go with Market, I think Glenn Hoddle was the most gifted footballer England have ever produced. All I'd say to those watching on playback is just go and watch him play and look at the muddy pitches, the quagmires, the thing he could do with that ball. At least he went off to Monaco with Wenger and he won some things there as well, I think. But like he was sheer class. Like I say, funnily enough, he scored on his debut and he scored on the last game at Spurs. He just shuffled past the player and then like just dummied him, shuffled past him, then dummied the goalkeeper and rolled it in the net a la Greaves style. Greaves did blast the ball now and again. He even headed a few goals, but most of the times Greaves rolled the ball in the net.
Yeah.
Because he had composure. Werner, are you listening? Right, the last bit's going to be a real bit of fun on our shows, guys, because it's called Spurs Empty Trophy Cabinet. Now, guests can pick a single moment in their history that when something's gone badly wrong, the thing they dislike, give it a red card and send it into the empty trophy cabinet because we've got to fill this cabinet with something, guys. For example, it could be something a pundit said, bad refereeing decision, a manager or coach that's mouthed off against our club, a player that's mouthed off, like recently the Brentford forward or whatever was mouthing off, trying to wind up our players. Could be a VAR decision. So, I know you're not used to this yet, Brad, but come up with a red card. Like Room 101, who would you like or what would you like to send in the Spurs and trophy cabinet?
I'm trying to think of an alternative of what I'm going to say because it might offend some people. Well, no, I don't see why it would. I'd actually put the Chelsea back Rudiger in there because what happened in the Tottenham Chelsea game when he got sent off, or he got Son sent off because Son pushed him and he went over like he'd been punched. He got Son sent off, and every time he got the ball, the fans booed him. I was there. The fans booed him, and then he went and he accused lots of the fans of being racist and made a complaint about it. And the police looked into it. They got cameras and everything, and the police said there's no case to answer. And if you think of Tottenham, how diverse that area is, how diverse our fan base is, to accuse Tottenham supporters of being racist, that, as a person I am, really offended me because I like to.
That's fair enough.
I think I'm fair with anyone, no matter who they are, whether they, religion, whatever they are. If they're a decent person, I'm friends with them. And that really offended me that night that he did that. And I think the very next game we played Chelsea, he scored, and he came over to where we were and given it all that. So yeah, don't like him. Not like him.
Okay. Mark, pick a moment. Who's going in the empty trophy cabinet?
The referee in the Champions League final, giving that handball against Sissoko after 30 seconds.
Good call.
Ruined the whole game. Ruined the whole game. And I'm still convinced that if that wasn't given, because there's no way a handball these days, if that wasn't given, we would have won that. Because we had a better team than Liverpool on paper. And I believe we would have beat them, and we would have been European champions. And I'd have seen us win something I didn't think we'd get into, let alone win the damn thing. So it's got to be whoever that referee was. I can Google it quickly if you want.
Slovakian, young Slovakian boy. Can't remember his name.
No, I was going to say, well, if he was Slovakian, I definitely won't be able to say his name.
I've got to think now, because I was going to come with that. I thought, no one will think of that. I'm going to come with that one. So
sorry.
That's all right. No, that's fine. I got to think. Ian, red card.
It's funny you should say that, Adrian, because actually I'm a qualified referee. I'm an ex-referee.
Are you really?
So bad refereeing decisions tend to come to mind. And one of the ones I was thinking was the decision when Vertonghen was flagged offside. It didn't matter. I think we'd already won the game. 4 yards inside his own half.
Yeah.
The referee, the linesman flagging him. And then but the referee, who was perfectly placed, should have flagged down. But I'm going for I'm going to actually red card the handball law, and I was going to cite that example. It's interesting. I was in Madrid, and every time on the Sunday morning you walk round a corner, there was another group of Scousers wanting to talk about the game, and I think from their point of view, they would say, the thing is, we didn't know whether to stick or twist. We started a game 0-0, and suddenly we were told we were actually playing this final 1-0 up, and we didn't know what to do. We might have won it. We'll never know. But it's the handball. When I refereed, it was always intentional, and you had to judge whether a player had intentionally handled the ball. There was none of this. Players, I can't do it on screen, but players defending with their hands behind their backs and in a natural position. And anyone who's ever played football knows full well that your arms have to go out to some extent to balance yourself. But 3 examples where the law of the game has changed as a result of handball decisions that FIFA keep fucking about with and keep making it even worse. I'll come on. Audio Artisans made a point. I'll come back to that in a minute. I will come back to that.
Say that one as well.
Good point. I think that's a good point. And as an ex-referee, I'm going to give you a little take on that. First of all was the handball that Eric Dyer had when Andy Carroll headed the ball against. He wasn't looking at it. His arms were in a totally natural position. We dominated them. In fairness, that should have been a consolation 5-1, and it wouldn't have mattered, but it wasn't. And I admired Steve Bruce for having the good grace to be embarrassed by, first of all, the decision and the fact that his team had gone away 1-0 up. The second one was when Sheffield United were last in the league, when Lucas Moura was bundled over from behind. The defender whacks it. It hits into his arm. It deflects to Harry Kane, who plonks it in the back of the net. Goal ruled out for handball. But the match restarted with a free kick to Sheffield United. You don't even get the foul, and then of course the Sissoko one. All 3 decisions resulted in changes to the interpretation of the laws of the game, and that's where FIFA get my red card. They go into the trophy cabinet or trophyless cabinet because they keep messing about with the handball law and they keep not improving it, and they keep still being controversy. And I tell you, when I see defenders going to attack the ball with their arms behind their backs, it drives me mad, because that's no way to defend. All I'll say to Audio Artisan, yeah, it was a shocking decision. And there's been a few like that. But the shot was from the halfway line. The linesman's position is level with the penultimate defender. So the penultimate defender would have been on or around the halfway line. The ball shot. It's a tough call to get right from that distance, particularly at ground level. You've not got much chance, and the referee was probably inside the Tottenham half at that point. It's one of those ones. Yeah, it's shocking. It's really bad when you see it on screen, but when you've been a referee and you've been a linesman and you're at ground level. Trying to watch a decision, not on a television camera or in the stand-up, I can understand why that happened. Albeit, I think it was 0-0. We'd have won that game 1-0.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So
I was dancing around the pub. I was literally dancing around the pub.
And you don't drink
Mark. I'm trying to picture you dancing, Mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it was a sort of strut, you know.
Right, down to me. I've had to think of one quick, but it's appropriate. Hope me and Brad don't get for Chelsea hate crimes here, because I'm going to pick a pundit, Jason Cundy, right? I mean, his charm is only exceeded by his personality, and he's got no personality, right? The guy he's had the charisma bypass operation, isn't he? I mean, like, he's just a total wally to me, particularly what he comes out with. He's got no sense of what's morally right or wrong, you know, things like that. He loves to jump on Spurs at every opportunity. Mind you, he's not alone like that. So without going on too much about him, I don't want to give him too much airtime before the Chelsea hate crime police come after me and Brad. Right, I'm red carding Jason Cundy, and he goes in the Spurs empty trophy cabinet. This will be a regular feature, guys, by the way. Right, that wraps up. I want to thank all of you in the chat and all of you on playback, those that you're watching later, for giving us your time, because without you, you're nothing. I especially want to thank my guests, Brad, Mod Mark, co-host Ian.
Hang on,
This has been a fantastic show, and
keep it
I
going.
I didn't think we would get this far today, because there's not exactly a lot happening, although I believe like things are really hot up in the transfer market now, especially as 4 weeks to go at the season. I think clubs that have got money will make their move this week and next week, I think. So that's something to look forward to. We do have a show on Friday. Hopefully Ellie will be fit enough to host it at 8 o'clock as well. We have another show on Sunday, which Ian will be hosting. I'll be riding shotgun with him, probably.
Yeah.
And so you can look forward to our regular shows. They are at 8 o'clock at the moment. But obviously when the season starts, Ian may do early shows, pre-match shows or whatever. We'll see how that goes. Go on, Mark.
Before you end, Adrian, please get over and sub to Brad. I haven't seen any videos on your channel lately, Brad.
No, I'm well.
You must be still writing them.
I'm actually working on one now. I just there's 50 on.
I'll put the link. I'll put his link in the chat, Adrian. If you want.
Right, okay, put his link in the chat. Put it.
I have.
There is a new site. I'm working on a new site at the moment, which is called My England, but it's just finding time to record it and do a video for all that stuff. But
and has as well, because we're all here to help each other.
I done Haz's when he had to leave.
We are a very discerning Spurs group. We are a mature and sensible group. So that's what the tone. You know, each podcast is
Allegedly.
Well, they've got their own tone. There's a different tone to podcasts. Ours is more fact-based and factual, but we will inject a bit of humour in. We're not going to be totally serious dullards. You know what I mean? So like, it's the way we're going. And we started off. We're doing quite well actually. So we're well pleased with what we're doing. But you know, for a month going or a little bit over. And once again, I want to thank you and thank all your guests. And I will play you out with this, and I'll see you guys in the back room. Once again, thanks to you all in the chat, and thanks to you watching on playback.